You know, we all absolutely love a good startup success story, right? The visionary founder, the late nights, the world-changing idea. Well, welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into a really fascinating tension. We're looking at the incredible, undeniable power of the entrepreneurial dream and stacking it up against the gritty, unforgiving reality of actually keeping a startup alive. So, what separates the triumphant few from the overwhelming majority who, frankly, crash and burn? Let's unpack exactly that.
Now, to really understand the spark of any business, we have to look inside the founder's head. And honestly, nobody captured this better than Napoleon Hill in his legendary book, Think and Grow Rich. He famously wrote that the starting point of all achievement is desire. But we're not just talking about a wish or a hope here. We're talking about a burning obsession, the kind that burns in your chest and literally keeps you awake at night. This is that raw fire that gives a founder the courage to just leap into the unknown. It's the ultimate catalyst. But as we're going to see, raw fire really needs to be contained, or it'll just burn the whole house down.
And that brings us to our primary guide for this explainer, John Bradbury, and his incredibly insightful book, 6 Secrets to Startup Success. Bradbury spent years studying why extremely smart, passionate people rush to risk literally everything on untested business ideas and why so many of them fail. His work shows us how to take that raw entrepreneurial fire Napoleon Hill talks about and successfully tether it to the real-world mechanics of business. Okay, let's look at the agenda. First, the power of desire. Second, beware the passion trap. Third, ready the founder. Fourth, market and math realism. Fifth, execute with agility. And finally, stamina and staying power. Section 1. The power of desire, the engine of entrepreneurship. So, if we look at the core tenets from Napoleon Hill's philosophy, success starts by turning a simple want into a burning, definite obsession. But how do you actually sustain that? Well, you literally rewire the gears in your mind. You do this through autosuggestion and specialized knowledge. You're using repetition and positive affirmations. You visualize the goal, you immerse yourself in learning, and you vividly imagine the outcome before it even exists. And this intense belief system, it builds the kind of monumental confidence you need to take that big entrepreneurial leap. It basically creates a mindset where you truly believe you can bend reality to your will.
Section 2. Beware the passion trap, when virtues become fatal flaws.
But here is a really sobering, honestly shocking piece of math for you. Roughly 50% of new businesses fail within their first 5 years. 50%. It doesn't matter what your industry is or what country you're in. The stark reality is that drive, determination, and a burning desire simply aren't enough to beat those odds on their own. In fact, Bradbury argues that passion is just as plentiful among failing entrepreneurs as it is among the ones who are actually destined to succeed. So why does this happen? Well, Bradbury calls it the passion trap. I want you to think of it like a dangerous, self-reinforcing loop. First, you become deeply attached to an amazing idea, and you pour all your time, energy, and money into it. But when the market finally gives you feedback and results, the trap snaps shut. Because you're so fiercely emotional about your baby, you use biased interpretation. You literally filter out the red flags and only hear the stuff that confirms your own brilliance. And this leads directly to what Bradbury calls Icarus qualities. You know, flying recklessly high on blind optimism. Secure in the belief that they have a can't-miss idea, these founders view the world through rose-colored glasses, basically wandering happily right toward the cliff's edge. What we actually need is earned optimism. Now, earned optimism isn't about, ratcheting down your passion. It's about elevating your awareness. It's a grounded, serious confidence that rests on the solid rock of clear, honest assessment and willful preparation. Section 3. Ready the founder. Purifying your passion.
Before you build the business, you have to build yourself. Ask yourself honestly, are you just trying to escape a bad boss, or are you genuinely driven to solve a real, known market opportunity? You have to map out your own puzzle pieces, your unique skills, your entrepreneurial personality, your resources, all to make sure you bring your absolute A game. It's really about clarifying your reasons and freezing out the distractions so you can perform at the absolute highest level.
Section 4. Market and math realism. Moving outside your own head.
Let's ask a pretty profound question. When you look at a fast food transaction, do you see a hamburger being sold or do you see hunger being solved? The hamburger is the product. Hunger is the customer need. Passion trap founders, they obsess over their product, the hamburger. But successful market-oriented founders, they obsess over the customer's hunger. An idea just isn't great until the market actually says it is.
You have to translate that customer orientation into a really solid math story. Passionate founders are notorious for overestimating sales and drastically underestimating their costs. You really need to understand the basic formula here. Your margin multiplied by your sales velocity equals your return. And above all, you have to anticipate that your runway is going to evaporate a lot faster than you think. A great rule to live by is that everything in a startup will take longer and cost more money than you ever planned for.
Section 5. Execute with agility. Navigating the unpredictable.
Bradbury shares this fantastic metaphor from a visual artist named Sean Cassidy. He says creating a business is just like creating art. It's never just sitting down and having a genius idea from scratch. It's a continuous, iterative cycle. Successful startups treat their launch the exact same way. It's an iterative learning process. They launch close to the customer, they test their assumptions, and they adapt quickly based on the very real data the market is giving them.
Section 6. Stamina and Staying Power. Surviving the Long Haul.
Now, this is where the magic happens between our two core ideas. When the market rejects your first, second, or maybe even third iteration, it's incredibly easy to lose hope. But remember what Napoleon Hill wrote: every failure brings with it the seed of an equivalent advantage. Failure isn't a dead end. It's just market data pointing you toward a necessary adjustment. It's literally a seed you can plant to grow your ultimate advantage. So, what does this look like in daily action? To survive the long haul, you really have to treat yourself like a corporate athlete. You can't just run on pure willpower. It just doesn't work. You need to balance intense periods of work with active recovery. You need automated daily habits, and you should definitely build a mastermind group of peers that's going to offer perspective and keep you grounded as you climb, step by step, toward those achievable goals.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a provocative thought. We know desire is the starting point, but we also know the fatal trap it can easily become. So look closely at your own ambitions, your own projects, and your own startup dreams, and ask yourself honestly, is your passion driving your business, or is it blinding it?